Elias is 5 years old. He's a happy little boy who likes playing with his friends at daycare and joking around with his big sister, Ellen. Despite the fact that she's his big sister, Ellen isn't any bigger than Elias, or much older for that matter. Only 15 minutes. This is because they're twins, and Ellen came out of their mum's tummy 1/4 of an hour earlier than Elias. This sometimes frustrates Elias a bit. He would have liked to be big brother instead. Elias's mum and dad have recently noticed that he snores really loud and wriggles around a lot in his sleep. What's more, he often seems tired and grouchy during the day. And yesterday he even fell asleep right in the middle of an exciting film on Bolibompa. He never likes to miss children's programmes on TV. One morning, Elias is sitting down eating breakfast before heading off to daycare. He's eating yoghurt and cereal and a liver pâté sandwich. Liver pâté is Elias's absolute favourite spread. But today, breakfast is going so slowly, and Elias is chewing and seems very reluctant to swallow. "You need to speed up, little fellow. Otherwise we'll be too late for assembly." "It tastes disgusting." "What did you say? Tastes disgusting? You usually love liver pâté sandwiches. And you must eat properly in order to be strong for daycare." "It's boring at daycare." "Oh, come on, buddy. What's up with you, really? You weren't like this before. So tired and cranky. I wonder if you're not slightly off colour in some way." "Right. I'm going to call and book a time with a doctor who can have a good look at you. In the meantime, put on your jacket and backpack. I'll be there soon." Elias leaves his half-eaten breakfast and goes and grabs his favourite soft toy, Bjornis, the teddy bear, who he packs down into his backpack before fetching his blue jacket from the hall. He hears Dad pick up the telephone and start to dial a number. Elias has been tired and out of sorts for some time now, and not at all as happy as he used to be. That's why he and his dad are now on their way to the hospital, where a doctor will examine Elias and decide what should be done to make him well again. When they arrive at the big hospital, Dad parks the car and they go in through the large entrance. Elias thinks that everything seems really big and unfamiliar, and that it also smells quite strange. At the same time, it's quite exciting, and he's happy that both Dad and Bjornis are there. They walk down long corridors and take a ride in a big lift until they come to a waiting room with green walls, where there's already several people sitting and flicking through magazines. There's a picture of a dog hanging on the wall that Elias thinks is really nice. From time to time, a nurse appears and calls out a name. Someone in the room then stands up and walks off. After a while, it's Elias's turn. The nurse shows Elias and Dad into an examination room, where Elias has to sit on an examination table. This is where they need to wait for the doctor. The door soon opens and the doctor comes in. Her trousers and coat are the same colour, and she's wearing a name badge on her chest. She smiles and looks at Elias. He thinks that she has really nice white teeth. She says that her name is Anne Charlotte, and says hello to Elias first and then to Dad, before sitting herself down next to Elias on the examination table. "Hi, Elias. I've heard that you've been feeling a little out of sorts recently, that you've been sleeping restlessly and have had a bad appetite." "OK, I'm going to start by taking a little look at your throat. If you'd like to come and sit on this chair, and I can raise you up a bit. That way I can get a better view. OK. Anne Charlotte puts on a head torch and shines the light on Elias. Can you open your mouth as wide as you can and say, ah, ah? Good. Just what I thought. Your tonsils are very big indeed. Tonsils? Yes. They're like two guards at the back of the throat that prevent bacteria and other nasty things from getting in. But sometimes they can become as troublesome as yours are now. Then it's just as well to remove part of them, or perhaps remove them completely. But who's going to keep guard then? Oh, right. Well, that's not a problem. The body is so smart, you know, that it has other guards that will take over the job. We'll operate on your tonsils, and soon you'll be as fit as a fiddle again. Elias has been to the hospital and has been examined. There it was decided that he must have his tonsils operated on in order to feel well again. Before he and his dad left the hospital to go home, they were given a lot of paper with information about what they must think about before the operation. For example, he is not allowed to take certain types of medicine. Nor is Elias allowed to eat any food during the last 6 hours before the operation, and not even chew chewing gum. He's allowed to drink water, but not during the last 2 hours before he's due to be operated on. Dad has helped Elias to look at anaesthesia web on the computer. There, he was able to see exactly what happens when you're anaesthetised before an operation. Being anaesthetised means that you fall into a really deep sleep and don't notice a thing. Elias feels a little nervous as he sits himself down in the car together with his mum, who'll be accompanying him today, the day of his operation. He holds on tight to Björnis, his teddy bear, when they set off. Before they went out to the car, Mum put ointment and a plaster on Elias's hand. When they arrive at the hospital, they are met by a nurse called Joachim. He has long hair and laughs a lot. Elias laughs a little to himself deep down inside, because he thinks that Joachim looks a bit like Björnis. "Hello, Elias. How are you doing?" "Well, not bad." "You feel a bit tense, yeah? Don't worry. You'll deal with this no problem. And you know, you'll sleep like a log during the entire operation, so you won't notice a thing. Also, your mum will be with you all the time. Oh, it's good to see that you've got ointment and a plaster on your hand. They'll attach a sleep tube there later, through which they can inject sleep medicine to make sure that you sleep really well. But now I need to give you some medicine to drink to make sure that you won't feel any pain when you wake up after the operation." Elias thinks that the medicine tastes a bit strange, but actually quite okay. Joachim now gives Mum new clothes that she must change into. A green gown and a strange hat. Elias thinks that she looks so funny that he can't help laughing at her when they go with Joachim into the operating room. Elias now lies down on an operating table in the operating room. Mum sits on a chair next to the operating table and holds onto his hand. That feels good. There are several doctors and nurses in the room, all wearing green clothes and strange hats. When Elias sees them and all the equipment, lights, tubes and screens that are in the room, he feels as if he's on board a spaceship that will soon lift off and zoom deep into space. This is an ECG machine. The doctors and nurses can see on the screen how the heart is beating. The screen is resting on a cabinet with many drawers for different things that may be needed in the operating room. He feels a little sleepy from the medicine he received, but it's exciting to fantasize about the spaceship and feels quite cool that all the equipment and all the people in the room are only there because of him there to make extra sure that everything goes right during the operation. This is an anaesthetic machine. As you can see, it has 2 TV screens where the doctors and nurses can constantly monitor how the person being operated on feels. The mask used to breathe through is hanging on the side. It is attached to the tubes that provide air and medicine to make you sleep. A nurse now says that she'll attach a sleep tube to Elias's hand. First of all, she removes the plaster and the ointment that Mum put on there at home. He shuts his eyes really tightly, squeezes Mum's hand and waits. Finally, he can't wait any longer and looks at his hand. The sleep tube is already there. Mum pats his other hand and says that he's really brave. Sleep medicine can now be injected via the tube on Elias's hand. He is also given a sort of sleep mask to breathe in that can also help him to sleep well during the operation. Elias thinks that he has loads of exciting things to tell his friends at daycare when he goes back. And before he knows it, he's fast asleep. Elias doesn't remember a thing after putting on the sleep mask to breathe in. He now very slowly opens his eyes and sees a green wall in front of him. Björnis is sitting on his stomach looking at him. Elias feels a bit dizzy and dry in his throat. He then feels Mum's hand softly stroke him on the cheek. "Welcome back, buddy." "Where are we, Mum? Shouldn't I be operated on?" "But darling, you've been operated on." "Oh, have I?" "Lie still now and don't speak too much. You must now rest your throat, you know." "OK." Elias knows that Mum is right. It's a bit hard to talk. It feels swollen in his throat and his tongue feels strange. What's more, he's tired, and it's just nice to lie and rest. A moment later, a nurse comes in and gives him some medicine so that he won't get any pain in his throat. Elias and his mum aren't alone in the wake-up room. In the bed next to his is another boy the same age as Elias, who has his dad with him. Mum talks with the dad, who says that the boy is called Ulla and has also had his tonsils operated on. Ulla will stay the night in hospital together with his dad, as they live in a town a long way away from the hospital. Elias and his mum don't need to stay the night because they live very close. The nurse now enters the room again with a glass of squash and an ice lolly. Vanilla. Elias suddenly feels very hungry and he thinks that it's the best lolly that he's ever had. But he must be careful when licking the lolly, and he must eat slowly because he's not allowed to irritate his throat too much. When Elias has rested a little while longer, the nurse comes in and says that Elias and his mum can go home. She has Elias's own clothes with her, and Mum helps him to change. They say goodbye to Ulla and his dad, and, with Björnis in one hand and Mum's hand in the other, Elias walks towards the lift. He feels a bit weak in his legs, and it feels nice to sit in the back of the car while Mum drives home. Elias has now been at home for a few days after his operation at the hospital. He won't be going to daycare for another few days yet. It's important for him to be at home taking it easy so that his throat can heal properly after the operation. He's allowed to go outside and play calm games, but he hasn't met any friends during the first few days to make sure that he doesn't pick up a cold. The nicest thing to do at the moment is read books, play games, or watch a children's film on TV together with Mum, Dad and Ellen, and just have a cosy time with everyone. So as not to irritate his throat, Elias isn't allowed to eat food that's too hard, such as crisp bread and hard apples and such like. Instead, he eats a lot of soup, mashed potato, yogurt and pasta. And ice cream, of course. Elias's big sister Ellen is rather jealous when she sees the amount of ice cream Elias gets. Elias just laughs and says that she needs to have her tonsils operated on first before she can get as much ice cream as him. It's very important that you eat a lot in order to be well again as quick as possible. It's also important that Elias takes his pain relief medicine about half an hour before food several times a day, according to the schedule he got from the hospital. He must do this even if he doesn't feel any pain just then, so as to stop the pain from coming. His throat will then heal quicker and he'll have more energy. It's also good if he drinks a lot, so that his throat never feels dry. Otherwise, his throat will hurt. One thing that Elias thinks is a nuisance is that he must speak quite quietly and softly so that he doesn't strain his throat. He can't shout when he's angry at Ellen because then it hurts. Ellen then takes the opportunity to get revenge for the ice cream by talking and singing really loudly whenever Elias is around. Just you wait, he thinks, until my throat is completely better. Then I'll shout 1,000,000 times louder than you. One evening, after Mum has put Elias to bed, who's blissfully asleep with Björnis tucked under one arm, she and Dad stand in the doorway looking at him. Look how sweet he is. And listen, no snoring. He's just sleeping so adorably. Yep, we've certainly got our old Elias back now. And did you see when he was watching Bolibompa? He was wide awake all the time and laughed so that he almost choked. They quietly close the door and go into the living room.